Anyway, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahshai, Bashem Rakakodah, Shalom to the 144,000, the rest of the elect out there, Shalom to you all. So I asked Google a question. I'm gonna ask. I may go in AI mode, and also I may go to the chat, which is number AI mode. Question: is it possible that Daniel 2 verse 44 is talking about EU and the NATO nations? And I was surprised at the response. Yes, many Bible's prophecy interpreters believe Daniel 2 verse 44 described the Most High's eternal kingdom replacing a fragmented earthly power. The iron and the clay feet, toes of the statue points toward a future revived Roman Empire, with the modern European Union, EU, and NATO nations seen as key players in its final world system before the Messiah returns, representing that mix of strength, iron, and weakness, clay, that won't fully blend. Let me go to the chat. Christians are not going to ask these questions because they don't, like I said, they don't understand prophecy. Same question. This time I'm asking the chat. Here we go, chat. Is it possible that Daniel 2 verse 44 is talking about EU and the NATO nations? Short answer, yes. Some people interpret Daniel 2 verse 44 that way, but it's a minority view and not the most common scholarly interpretation. Well, anybody teaching different, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Let's unpack this carefully. What Daniel 2 verse 44 says, context. Daniel 2 describes Nebuchadnezzar's dream of a statue made of different metals representing successive world empires in verse 44. So we're talking about the dream that he saw spanned from about circa 600 BC to the present. So we're talking, this prophecy spans more than 2,500 years. And we're at the end of it, right? It says, in the days of those kings, which are the EU nations, which includes America, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom is being set up. When you see it, all this hate for Israelites, these camps, well, that's a kingdom being established. And that includes the other camps too. But GMS is the number one camp, the creme de la creme. We are the number one camp out there. The number one prophets, the number one apostles. There's the reason why we are calling ourselves apostles, and these guys can't do that. It says the divine kingdom is set up during the time of the final earthly kingdoms, destroys and replaces all previous kingdoms. What happened to those? What's going to happen to those other kingdoms? Those people are going to be our slaves. They're going to be either vassals or serfs. Last forever. The traditional interpretation, classical Historical Christian view, most common. The statue represents Babylon, gold, Medo-Persian silver, Greece, bronze, iron, Rome, a divided continuation of the Roman Empire. Right, this is Rome all over again. That's why you got a Caesar, emperor, ruling over the United States. That's Nero. Nero redivivos. Daniel 2 verse 44 then refers to the Most High's kingdom inaugurated with the Messiah, fulfilled spiritually and ultimately fully realized at the Messiah's return. The view sees the prophecy as fulfilled beginning in the Roman period, not modern Europe. It's going to end with modern Europe and America. Futurists, which we are the future considered futurists. Futurist dispensational view. Some evangelical interpreters believe the feet, toes, iron, and clay represent future of revived Roman Empire. The Most High's kingdom is established at the second coming of the Messiah. The final alliance is still future. This is where modern political entities sometimes get suggested. Where the EU and NATO comes from, people who connect Daniel 2 to the EU, NATO, usually argued iron and clay, ultimately mixed with weakness. Multiple nations joined together, but not fully cohesive. Europe, historically tied to Rome, beautiful. NATO, EU involves alliances rather than a single empire. However, there are serious problems with this interpretation. Major problems with the EU-NATO interpretation. Daniel never mentioned democracy, treaties, or military alliances. He doesn't have to. The kingdom and the kingdoms in Daniel are empires and kings. America is an empire. Okay? Look up the word empire. Not voluntary political unions. NATO is a defensive alliance, not a ruling king. They still rulers a king. A king. If you got a president, he's a king. Governor, he's a king. A mayor is a king. He's a king of New York. The word king goes back to the word Bezalel, or Basil, which means king, a ruler. The number of nations keeps changing. Many try to link the 10 toes to the right. It's based upon 10 toes. The EU has had far more than 10 members. NATO even more. The number constantly changes, which weakens the claim, but it's still true. It's based upon 10. The kingdom of the Most High replaces all earthly kingdoms. Daniel chapter 2 verse 44 says the Most High's kingdom crushes and ends all other kingdoms, becomes the only kingdom. This doesn't fit gradual political development, coexistence with modern nation states. Historically, similar claims have failed. Okay, Roman Catholic Church is blah, 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 blah. So is it possible? Yes, logically possible, but textually weak. Let me do this. Where does America fit in all of this as a very natural follow-up. An honest answer may surprise you. In the book of Daniel, America is not clearly identified at all. But they're part of NATO. They have dealings with the EU. Let me explain why, and then I'll show you the main ways people try to fit America in. With Daniel, let me do this. What Daniel is actually concerned with, Daniel's vision focused on empires that directly ruled or affected the Most High's people, which are the Israelite successive world powers in the ancient Near East and Mediterranean world. That's why we clearly see Babylon, Medo-Persian, Greece, Rome. After Rome, Daniel's prophecy moved toward divine intervention, the Most High's everlasting kingdom. There is no textual requirement for every latter power nation to appear. Why America is hard to place in Daniel? Daniel describes empires, not distant nation states. America is not an empire. Yes, it is an empire. Let me see something. Let me do this. I'll do it this way. I'm just going to say it. What constitutes an empire? An empire is a large political unit where America's dominant central power, America's essential power, controls multiple territories. Then they started with the 13 colonies, then they took down the Gadites. America's an empire based upon this. Peoples or states, often through conquest or colonization. Wait a minute. How did they get? Gad was here. Reuben was here. The native people were here. How did Europeans get this land? They conquered it. The French. The French, the Spanish, and Great Britain, establishing a hierarchical structure. That's your government, with a core of benefits from subordinate. Peripheries. Key elements. Peripheries. I'm sorry. Key elements include centralization. What do you have in America? The capital of the U.S. is Washington, D.C. That's your centralized authority, ruler government, the federal government. Vast territory, America's 5,000 square miles. Diverse population. There's a melting pot. And mechanisms for control, military, economic, cultural. That's why when the economy goes bad, they blame the government. It differs from other states by its inherent inequality between the center and the ruled territories. These territories are called states. States are territories, provinces, even if control is sometimes benevolent. Yeah, you got good presidents and bad presidents. So what the hell are you guys, what are you talking about, chat? It says why America is hard to place it in Daniel. Daniel describes empires, not distant nation states. I just showed you by the definition that America is an empire. Yeah, but they have presidents. They don't have kings. What do you think a president is? He's a king. If a guy kills another person on federal land, the president can pardon that person. I can do that. How many people did Trump pardon? How he's in that seat? The reason why he's in that seat is because the Most High put him there to get this party started right. It's not an empire in the classical sense. Did not arise from Rome. It is Rome. Read comparisons between Rome and America. And a direct political way exists thousands of years after Daniel's historical rising. Daniel's kingdoms are centralized as the federal government, ruled by kings. A president is also a king. Territorial empires, which are states, they can hold back funds from different states. The only that alone makes a clear distinction difficult. The prophecy is not a timeline of all future history. Yes, it is. Daniel is not trying to map every future superpower. Yes, he is. Predict modern geopolitics. The fact that you got the EU and the NATO alliances that's geopolitics. Instead, it answers one question: Who really rules history? Human empires or God? Well, the Most High. He set them up. That's why Nebuchadnezzar had that vision, and Daniel had this vision. Same vision, different characters. Once Rome appears, the story moves toward the Most High's kingdom, not a catalog of later nations. Common attempts to fit America in and their problems, America as part of Roman legacy. Look at the Senate. You have a fasci on either side. That's a symbol of Rome. The eagle is a symbol for Rome in America. This is Rome all over again. Some say America inherits Roman law. Well, your law, when you get a Black's Law Dictionary, you have the legalese, language of lawyers, is they use Latin words, governance, or culture. Therefore, it is indirectly part of the iron. Problem: almost all Western nations inherit Roman influence. That doesn't make them prophetically distinct. America is one of the toes. Not really. No. Others argue the toes represent modern nations. America can be one of them. Problems: Daniel never names toes as nations. I'm going to read no more of this. America as a clay democracy, weakened authority, strength. Problem: America in the Revelation, not Daniel. Some try to locate America in Babylon the Great. This is a different book, a different symbol, system, and still highly debated. No, when you read Daniel, especially Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, you got to think of Revelation. The most responsible conclusion from a careful biblical standpoint: Daniel does not require America to appear. America's absence is not a problem for the prophecy. Modern nations come and go within the age of human kingdoms. Here is every future superpower. All human power is temporary. The Most High's kingdom is permanent. A perspective that often gets missed. Daniel was written to people living under foreign rule who might think history was out of control. Then the encouragement is empires rise, empires fall, the Most High purposes continue. By the logic, America is just another participant in that ongoing pattern that showed you that these Edomites, Daniel 12 and 10, the wicked shall not understand. Significant historically, but not necessarily prophetically named. Of course it's prophetically named. It's Babylon the Great. Let me do this. Short answer, the Bible never explicitly identifies America as Babylon the Great, and saying it is America goes beyond what the text clearly supports. What Babylon the Great is in the Bible. Okay, let me see. Babylon the Great appears mainly in Revelation 17 and 18, chapter 17, 18, and is described as immensely wealthy. That's what America's the richest economy on the planet. A global economic power. Yes, America's a global economic power, influencing the nations, and that's what they do through their military. Morally corrupt, if that's not talking about this place, eventually destroyed suddenly by the Most High's judgment. It is called the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. That's where you get the word hegemony, bully on the block, and world reserve currency, petrodollar. Importance. The reason why people are still under the world reserve currency system that America's the king of is because they have a military backing it up. You want to do your own thing behind the scenes. They're gonna drop missiles on you. That's why all these nations that possess these missiles are gonna drop missiles on them, and it's going to be a sneak attack too. Revelation is symbolic, apocalyptic literature, not straightforward geography. The strongest scholarly consensus across Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant agrees Babylon originally symbolized Rome. Rome ruled the known world at the time Revelation was written. Rome persecuted Israelites that believed in the Messiah. Rome sat on 7 hills, which that seven hills don't equate to Revelation 17 and 9. Early Christians routinely used Babylon as a code word for Rome. No, that right there, when it says the church in Babylon, those are Israelites living in Iraq. Babylon equals Rome, first century context. Why some people think America could be Babylon the Great. This is where modern interpretations come in. People who see America as Babylon usually point to economic dominance, global trade, wealth, and luxury. Revelation 18, consumer culture, influencing the world. That's why the nation is going to cry when this place gets set on fire. Cultural influences, entertainment, media. The great Jake, they become great singers and rappers, and they're all around the world. They make their real money outside of America. Why do you think Michael Jackson, for years, he was doing concerts in Europe? Because he got more money. They looked at Michael Jackson, MJ, as a god. a complete god. Entertainment, media, values exported worldwide. All nations were deceived by her sorcery, moral corruption, sexual immorality, idolatry of wealth and power, sudden destruction. Yep, the place is going to be destroyed. Major problem with identity. Babylon is a city, not a right. Well, city, primarily a nation. A nation is a city. United States citizens. Anyway, let me do this. You know what I'm going to say. What's the GMS Israelites take GMS core claim America, Babylon, and Great 100% certain. Unlike cautious Christian views, GMS does not hedge. To GMS, the United States is Babylon the Great, not symbolic, not Rome, not a future mystery empire. We really don't even have to read this. They point to global trade, dollar-based world economy, luxury, excess, consumerism, merchants enriched by her, China mainly. The merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. They argue no nation fits this like the U.S. Cultural influences. They emphasize Hollywood, music, media, exported values and lifestyles. This is tied to all nations were deceived by her sorceries. Military power. They connect Babylon's dominance to global military presence. NATO as America's military arm, the hammer of the whole earth. Jeremiah. Give me a second. If I'm not mistaken, that's Jeremiah 50, if I'm not mistaken. I do know it's in Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I was right, Jeremiah 50:23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder, hit with missiles and broken? How is Babylon, America, become a desolation among the nations? Anyway, shalom, on to the next.